Welcome to the Eerie Hour. Some places don't just haunt you, they wait. They lie dormant beneath the layers of dust and familiarity, gathering silence like cobwebs until the precise, inevitable moment they choose to reveal themselves. They don't announce their presence with a scream. They invite you with a whisper, a subtle shift in the air, a detail you simply cannot ignore. They wait, patient and certain, for you to stumble upon their hidden heart, their forgotten truth. And when you do, the world you thought you knew begins to dissolve like sugar in black coffee. It's an invitation, yes, but it's also a threshold. Once crossed, there is rarely a way back to what was before. There is only the strange, compelling, terrifying unknown. If you enjoy descending into the strange and the forgotten, don't forget to like and subscribe and share your theories below. Now, let's begin. But remember, once the story starts, something always follows. You stumble upon it quite by accident in the forgotten corner of the place you thought you knew intimately. An old house inherited, a neglected section of your workplace, perhaps an apartment building's disused utility closet. You find it, a door. It wasn't here before, or maybe it was, hidden so perfectly behind stacked boxes, peeling wallpaper, or a false panel you never noticed. It looks like an exterior door, maybe leading to a long-forgotten alley or a small yard, but something about it feels profoundly wrong. The wood is ancient and warped, the handle cold even on a warm day, and there's no lock, just an unnerving stiffness when you first try to turn the knob. A faint, almost imperceptible smell of damp earth and something else, something stagnant, seems to seep from the gap beneath. Curiosity, a potent and dangerous force, overrides the prickle of unease. You have to know where this hidden exit leads. Surely, it just leads outside, right? Just outside. You press your hand against the warped wood, feeling the grain rough beneath your fingers. There is no window, no peephole, just the solid, silent resistance of the barrier. A bead of sweat tracks a cold path down your temple. You twist the knob again, firmer this time, leaning your weight into the door. It groans, a deep, reluctant sound that seems to vibrate in your bones. For a moment, it feels like the house itself is sighing, a long, drawn-out exhalation of dust and secrets. The air around the door feels different now, thicker, colder than the rest of the room. You pull back your hand and notice a faint, dark smear on your palm, like old dirt. But it smells of nothing you recognize. The stillness returns, heavy and expectant. You look back at the familiar room, the boxes, the peeling paint, and then at the door. It feels further away now. An island of impossible reality in the mundane. What lies beyond this unexpected threshold? The anticipation is a knot tightening in your stomach. There is only one way to quiet the persistent, insistent voice in your head that demands to know. You reach for the knob again. The groan of the door, as it finally yields, is not one of wood on wood, but something deeper, like stone grinding on stone, or bone shifting within a joint. It swings inward slowly, revealing not the expected alley or yard, but absolute, impenetrable darkness. Not the mere absence of light, but a void that seems to swallow it whole. A tangible blackness that feels like velvet against your skin as you tentatively extend a hand into it. There is no smell now, just the stagnant air that was beneath the door, thick and cloying, making it hard to draw a full breath. You step through the frame, and the door closes behind you with a soft click, a sound too gentle for its earlier protest, too final for your comfort. You are enclosed in the dark, the only sound, the ragged rhythm of your own breathing. This is not outside. This is somewhere else. As your eyes struggle to adjust to the profound absence of light, you notice a faint, pulsating warmth in the distance, a soft, diffuse glow that seems to hum rather than shine. It draws you forward, a magnetic pull against your rising panic. The floor beneath your feet is uneven, like damp earth, but strangely firm, packed down by what? The air grows heavier, carrying with it a subtle, sour tang, like old rain and something metallic. You reach out, expecting to touch a wall, but your hand meets nothing but empty space. How wide is this place? How deep? The pulsating glow intensifies slightly, and you see it now, a single faint light source, perhaps a lamp or a candle, far ahead in the oppressive gloom. A cold dread begins to seep into your limbs, chilling you despite the distant warmth. This is not just a forgotten alley. It feels like a forgotten place, one that shouldn't exist. The door, the impossible door that led you here, is no longer visible behind you, lost in the absolute black. You are alone, caught between the uncanny glow and the silent, swallowing dark. The quiet is immense, pressing in on your ears, broken only by the sound of your own heart hammering against your ribs. Is that another sound? A faint, rhythmic tapping, like a tiny hammer against wood, seems to emanate from the direction of the light. The silence answers your straining ears. But the tapping persists, just at the edge of hearing. Drawn by the faint, uncanny rhythm, you move towards the pulsating warmth, your steps uncertain on the yielding ground. The darkness presses close, a physical weight against your shoulders. The tapping sound becomes clearer now, distinct and deliberate, a slow, steady beat. As you approach the source of the glow, it resolves into a single, tall candle, flickering atop a rough-hewn wooden table. The light casts long, dancing shadows that seem to writhe in the periphery of your vision. Seated at the table, hunched over, is a figure. It does not move as you draw near. The tapping is coming from its hands, which are busy with something small and intricate. A vivid atmospheric detail strikes you as you get closer. The air around the table doesn't just smell stagnant. It carries a distinct, unsettling aroma of damp velvet and old dust, a scent that feels ancient and cloying. The figure you see now is working on a doll. Not a child's toy, but something unnerving. It is crudely made, its limbs jointed with string, its face a blank expanse of cloth. The figure is stitching tiny black buttons onto the doll's face where eyes should be. Tap, 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 the slow rhythm of the needle piercing cloth. A wave of nausea washes over you, cold and sudden. This space, this impossible room or cavern, feels like a workshop, but for what purpose? The figure looks up then, its head lifting with agonizing slowness. It has no discernible features, its face obscured by shadow and the angle of its head. Yet you feel the weight of its gaze. It does not speak. It does not smile. It simply watches you with a terrifying stillness. The needle paused in its hand, the button eye suspended over the doll's blank face. A moment of emotional fracture hits you like a physical blow. A profound sense of wrongness, a dizzying confusion that makes your head spin. Where are you? Who is this? The questions scream in your mind, but your voice catches in your throat. The doll lies between you, its incomplete face staring blankly upwards. Is this place real, or have you walked into a dream? The figure lowers its head, and the tapping resumes, the steady, rhythmic beat a counterpoint to the frantic pounding of your heart. It's as if the silence itself is an entity here, observing you, waiting. The single candle flickers, casting shadows that look less like shadows and more like reaching hands. You notice another detail then, something glinting on the table next to the figure's hand. A small, tarnished key. It lies innocuously next to the doll, yet it draws your eye with an impossible significance. A key. Here? The tapping continues, a steady, maddening rhythm in the quiet. You stare at the figure, at the unfinished doll, at the tarnished key lying on the rough wood. The air is thick with the scent of damp velvet, heavy and suffocating. The figure doesn't acknowledge you further, returning to its meticulous work, its movements precise and silent apart from the needle's tap. A strange thought pricks at the edges of your mind. Is it making the doll for you? The idea is chilling, absurd, yet it lodges itself firmly in your fear. You take a step closer, the damp earth yielding slightly under your weight. You have to get that key. It feels instinctively right, a potential answer in a place of questions. As you move, the figure's head doesn't rise, but you feel its attention shift. A cold awareness that seems to prickle the back of your neck. You reach for the key, your hand trembling slightly. It's smaller than you expected, intricately carved despite the tarnish. Your fingers brush against the cold metal just as the tapping stops. The sudden silence is more jarring than the noise. The figure is utterly still, its head still bowed over the doll, yet you know it is watching. The ambiguous or interpretive line surfaces in your mind, a whispered dread. Is it waiting for you to take it? Or is it waiting for you to fail to take it? The thought paralyzes you for a second. Then a vivid atmospheric detail crashes in. From somewhere in the vast, unseen darkness beyond the candlelight, you hear a soft, shuffling sound, like something dragging itself across the floor. It's slow, deliberate, and it's getting closer. Panic surges, overwhelming the chilling quiet. The moment of emotional fracture is complete. Logic shatters, replaced by primal terror. You snatch the key from the table, the metal cold and heavy in your palm. As you do, the candle flame sputters violently, plunging the immediate area into near darkness. The shuffling sound stops, but you hear something else now, closer, a low, guttural exhale, as if something large and unseen has just drawn a breath right behind you. You spin around, key clutched tight, peering into the blackness where the sound originated. There is nothing but the oppressive dark, thicker now, more menacing, but you feel the presence, vast and silent, lurking just beyond the weak reach of the sputtering candle. The door that brought you here feels impossibly far away, a forgotten dream. Where could this key even lead in this place? You are trapped between the silent figure, the unnerving doll, the stolen key, and the breathing dark. And the silence answers, just like before. The darkness holds its breath. The shuffling has stopped, but the feeling of being watched is overwhelming. A physical pressure against your skin. The candle near the figure sputters erratically, its weak light barely pushing back the encroaching black. You still feel the weight of the figure's unseen gaze, even with its head bowed. The stolen key feels warm now in your clammy hand, a small, tangible reality in this unreal place. The sound of that breath, deep and ragged, echoes in your memory. What was it? What is out there, just beyond the light? You edge away from the table, backpedaling slowly, your eyes fixed on the impenetrable dark. The floor is still damp earth, yielding under your feet, but it feels slicker now, colder. A vivid atmospheric detail assaults your senses. The air no longer just smells of damp velvet. It carries a faint metallic tang, coppery and sharp, like the smell of fresh blood, although there is nothing to see. The thought sends a fresh wave of nausea through you. Is this place alive? Or is it a graveyard? The symbolic motif of the door returns to you, not the one you entered through, but the idea of another door, one that this key might open, a way out, or maybe just a way further in. The hope is fragile, overshadowed by the suffocating dread. You search the edges of the candlelight, scanning the darkness for any sign of structure, any wall that might hold a lock, a door. There is only the unending black. A moment of emotional fracture takes hold. Doubt twists into paranoia. Was the key meant to be taken? Or was it a trap? Is the figure benevolent? Or is it part of the threat lurking in the dark? You can no longer trust your own instincts. Every shadow seems to stretch and shift. Every silence feels heavy with intent. You hear the faintest sound then, a whisper that seems to come from everywhere at once, a breathy, sibilant sound like dry leaves skittering across stone. It's just your imagination, you tell yourself, just the sound of blood rushing in your ears. But the whisper persists, weaving through the thick air. It sounds like a name you almost recognize, almost remember. The ambiguous or interpretive line forms itself in your mind. Is it calling to you or warning you away? The feeling of being watched intensifies, and you know with a certainty that chills you to the bone that whatever drew that ragged breath is still out there, listening, waiting for you to move. The key is heavy in your hand, a burden now, a responsibility you never asked for. The whisper fades, swallowed by the oppressive silence, but the feeling of being watched remains, a constant pressure against your back. You grip the key, your knuckles white. The air still carries that faint metallic tang, sharp and unsettling. You have to find a door, a lock, something. Your eyes strain in the near darkness, searching the edges of the flickering candlelight. Then you see it. Not a door, not yet, a wall. It rises out of the darkness some distance away, a sheer face of rough-hewn stone, damp and glistening in the faint light. Hope flares, a desperate ember in the gathering dread. A wall implies a structure, and a structure might have an opening. You move towards it, keeping low, your senses on high alert. The shuffling sound does not return, nor the heavy breath, but the silence feels charged, taut, like a wire about to snap. As you reach the wall, running your hand along the cold, rough stone, you notice a vivid atmospheric detail. The stone is slick with moisture, but it feels strangely warm to the touch, almost feverish, like living skin. You pull your hand back quickly, a fresh wave of revulsion washing over you. This place feels wrong in a way that defies explanation, a violation of natural laws. You follow the wall, your fingers trailing against the damp, warm stone, searching for any break in its surface. The key is still clutched in your hand, heavy and demanding. The recurring motif of doors feels more urgent now. You need one, a real one, not the uncanny threshold that led you here. You scan the stone, praying for a hinge, a frame, anything. And then you see it. A small, almost invisible indentation in the stone, no bigger than your hand. Within the indentation, barely visible, is a keyhole. It is small, old, and looks exactly like the shape of the key in your hand. A moment of emotional fracture strikes you. Not fear this time, but a perverse sense of inevitability. A chilling acceptance that this is what the key was for all along. You have been led here. Is this a way out? Or is it the point of no return? The question hangs in the air, an ambiguous or interpretive line that offers no comfort. You lift the key, bringing it towards the keyhole. Your hand trembles. Behind you, from the depths of the darkness, you hear that soft, sibilant whisper again, closer this time, clearer. It's not a name. It's a single word, repeated over and over, barely audible. Open, open. The key fits perfectly into the lock. The key turns smoothly in the lock, a soft click echoing in the profound silence of the space. You pull the key out, your hand steady, despite the frantic hammering of your heart. The stone where the keyhole is located doesn't move, doesn't shift. There is no door opening, no panel sliding away. Just the small indentation, the empty keyhole. Was the key meant to lock something, not unlock it? Or is this place a puzzle with no simple solution? You press your hand against the stone again, seeking a seam, a hidden handle. Nothing. The wall is solid, impassive. The whisper is gone. The silence is absolute once more. Heavier now, imbued with a sense of profound disappointment and lingering dread. You look back towards where the candle flickered, but it is out. Only the absolute darkness remains, punctuated by the dull ache in your limbs and the frantic rhythm of your pulse. The metallic tang in the air seems to have intensified, a coppery scent that feels thick enough to taste. You are alone in the dark, the key a dead weight in your hand, the wall silent and unyielding. The recurring motif of the door has led to a dead end, or perhaps the truth was that there was never meant to be another door. The only threshold was the one you crossed. The uncanny event was not finding a door, but finding a place that is not a place, reached through an impossible opening. The psychological residue is overwhelming, a sense of being fundamentally lost, not just in space, but in reality itself. What was real? The old house? The boxes? Or this damp, dark expanse with its silent figure, its unsettling doll, its lurking presence? The unanswered questions pile up, heavy as the stone wall. Who made the key? What was the figure doing? What lurks in the dark? Where did the door go? The ambiguous or interpretive line whispers in your mind, a final, chilling thought. Perhaps you are not trapped in this place, but this place is trapped around you. You stand in the dark, the key still in your hand, feeling the cold sweat on your brow. The silence is vast, but it is not empty. It feels full of waiting things, of unseen eyes. You listen to the silence, straining for a sound, a sign, anything. But there is only the echo of your own breathing, and perhaps, the faintest, almost imperceptible sound of slow, rhythmic tapping from somewhere far away, deep in the black. And if you hear it again tonight, don't answer. Not yet. You step through the hidden door. Immediately, the air changes. It isn't the sharp coolness of the evening air outside, nor the stale warmth of the building you just left behind. It is still, thick, holding an unfamiliar scent that pricks at the back of your throat, like dust and something else, something mineral and cold, perhaps wet stone that has been left in darkness for centuries. Your breath catches. The quality of the light is wrong. It spills from unseen sources, a weak, uniform gray that casts no true shadows, making everything appear flat and artificial. It coats surfaces like a fine, sterile film, draining color from the world. The sounds of your own movements are muted, muffled, as if you are wading through deep water or listening from behind a thick wall. The faint echo of your footfall is swallowed almost before it reaches your ears. Visually, it is not outside. It is something else. A vast, impossible space that somehow twists and extends the geometry of the familiar building, yet denies its logic. Walls slant inward at unnatural angles, meeting ceilings that stretch into indeterminate gray haze. What should be a simple corridor bends and elongates, leading your eye into a vanishing point that is miles away, not yards. Gravity feels subtly off, a faint pressure at your temples, a constant, gentle pull in a direction that isn't quite straight down. You take a tentative step, and the floor feels solid, yet wrong, as if it's merely pretending to be horizontal. Disorientation washes over you. A sudden cognitive dissonance as your brain attempts to reconcile the impossible visuals with your physical sensations. A sound reaches you then, distant and thin, echoing through the cavernous, warped halls. It is not human. It is a low, resonant hum, layered with sharp clicks, like stone grinding on stone, or teeth gnashing far away. It rises and falls irregularly, a mechanical heartbeat in the stillness. You turn your head sharply towards the sound, and in your peripheral vision, you see it. A stack of crates against a far, slanting wall seems to subtly shift, not fall, but glide an inch or two sideways before settling. When you look directly, they are still, motionless under the wrong light. It must be your eyes adjusting, or the strange perspective. A growing knot of fear tightens in your stomach, cold and hard. Your bewilderment sharpens into dread. The impossible layout, the distorted architecture, it isn't just a strange visual effect. It feels like the space itself is conscious of its own wrongness, displaying it like a taunt. On one of the strangely angled walls, almost too faint to notice in the dim light, you see a pattern repeated, a simple, angular symbol etched into the gray surface. It makes no sense. An intersecting series of lines, but it feels deliberate. It feels like it is waiting for you to understand. You wonder how deep this distortion goes, how much of what you thought was real has already been consumed by this place. Welcome to the Eerie Hour. Some places don't just haunt you, they wait. If you enjoy descending into the strange and the forgotten, don't forget to like and subscribe and share your theories below. Now, let's begin. But remember, once the story starts, something always follows. You step through the threshold, and the air changes. It thickens, tasting of dust and something sharp, like ozone before a storm, but older, more patient. The doorway behind you is gone, replaced by a solid wall of the same gray, featureless material that stretches in every direction. There is no sound but your own breathing, shallow now, and the faint, distant hum that seems to originate from everywhere and nowhere at once. You lift a hand, reaching out to touch the wall, expecting stone or concrete, but your fingers meet a surface that feels both smooth and strangely yielding, like cold flesh under taut skin. It does not give way, but seems to pulse faintly against your touch. A single dark puddle lies at your feet, reflecting not your face, but a wavering image of something long and thin, like a skeletal finger tapping against glass. It is gone before you can fully register it, the water now showing only the featureless ceiling. Doubt pricks at the edge of your mind. Did you see it? Or is the strangeness already beginning its quiet work? The hum deepens slightly, a vibration felt more in the chest than heard by the ears. It seems to pull you forward into the impossible gray expanse. The gray expanse continues, but it is no longer featureless. Long, angular corridors branch off. Walls meeting at impossible angles, defying the logic your eyes demand. You choose a path, the hum guiding you, or perhaps simply amplifying the frantic beat of your own heart. As you move deeper, the air grows colder, the dust thicker, clinging to your clothes, settling on your tongue. You pass what might be doorways, recessed openings in the wall, but they lead only into deeper shadow or simply end abruptly, the passage sealed by the same gray material. The hum becomes a low thrumming now, a steady rhythm, like a hidden pulse. You stop before a large, flat surface embedded in the wall. It looks like a mirror, though it has no frame, and its surface is clouded with an unnatural haze. You lean closer, wiping at the mist, and see your reflection slowly coalesce, but it is slightly off. Your eyes are too wide, the mouth a thin, unnerving line, and behind your shoulder, just at the edge of the reflection, a fleeting movement, a shadow detached from any source. You spin around, but nothing is there. The corridor stretches empty behind you, swallowed by the unnatural angles. A whisper brushes past your ear, unintelligible, like dry leaves skittering across stone, and a knot of true fear tightens in your gut. This place does not simply exist, it watches. You are starting to feel very small. As you venture deeper into this impossible space, it becomes more actively unsettling. The bland gray gives way to textures that writhe subtly, walls that appear woven from hair, floors that seem paved with cracked bone, though they still feel like the same yielding material underfoot. The smells intensify, no longer just dust and ozone, but something metallic and sour, like stagnant water mixed with old blood. The sounds grow closer, more defined. That low thrumming is now accompanied by distinct wet scraping noises from somewhere nearby, just out of sight. The visual distortions increase, mimicking areas from your memory, but rendered terrifyingly wrong. A corridor twists into the shape of your childhood hallway, but the wallpaper peels away to reveal not plaster, but something dark and segmented, and the familiar door at the end is replaced by a yawning, jagged mouth. Paranoia begins to take hold. You feel watched, the air thick with unseen eyes. Your own thoughts seem alien, detached, as if they are being fed to you. You stare at your hands, flexing your fingers, doubting their reality. This is it, isn't it? The edge. You question if you've gone mad or if the space is somehow manipulating your mind, whispering its lies directly into your skull. The paranormal escalates. Shadows detach themselves from the walls, stretching and contracting like living things, and faint figures are glimpsed at the periphery of your vision, dissolving the moment you try to focus. The whispers return, clearer now, forming fragmented, unsettling phrases that seem intensely personal, dredging up buried fears or regrets. "Why did you let it?" they hiss, or "he remembers." Things. Any reflective surfaces, small dark puddle, the slightly polished curve of a wall section, show not your current location, but warped, impossible images. A glimpse of a vast, empty library filled with faceless figures, or a sky filled with eyes. The mirror motif is no longer passive. It is an active window into places you cannot comprehend. Then, a sickening jolt of familiarity. You experience a moment of strong déjà vu tied to this strange space, a chilling certainty that you have been here before, walked these impossible paths, heard these whispers, in a dream or nightmare you could never quite recall upon waking. The déjà vu clings to you, a damp, cold shroud. It feels like a memory trying to surface, not from your past life, but from a life lived entirely within these impossible confines. The space seems to respond to this recognition. The architecture twists more violently, forming chambers that feel both intimately familiar and utterly alien. The shape of a room you know, but rendered inside out, with impossible curves and floors that slope unnaturally. The sour, metallic smell intensifies, sharp enough to burn the back of your throat. The scraping sound is louder now, just beyond the next corner, a rhythm that seems to follow your own footsteps, just slightly out of sync. Your psychological state fractures further. You whisper aloud, trying to anchor yourself to reality, but the words sound foreign, not your voice. You are certain the space is not just manipulating your mind, but actively merging with it, feeding on your fear and memory. The paranormal manifestations are bolder. Shadows coalesce into forms that mimic the faint figures glimpsed earlier, tall and thin, moving with a jerky, unnatural grace. They do not approach directly, but patrol the edges of your vision, always just out of sight when you turn. The whispers are no longer fragmented. They weave together into a soft, continuous murmur, a chorus of voices that sound like echoes of your own darkest thoughts, mixed with others you do not recognize. You pass another reflective surface, this one but towering pane of something like black glass set into the wall. It shows not the warped places, but a clear image of you, standing here, staring into it. But the reflection smiles, a slow, dreadful curving of the lips that you are not performing. Then it raises a hand, reaching out, and its fingers, long and skeletal, tap against the glass from the other side. It is the same gesture, the same impossible fingers you saw in the first puddle. This space remembers you. The figure in the black glass smiles wider, its eyes in your reflection's face, holding a terrible, knowing light. The tapping on the glass becomes insistent, a rhythmic, demanding sound. You stumble back, adrenaline flooding your system, but there is nowhere to run that doesn't lead deeper into the impossible architecture, which is now shifting visibly around you. Walls bulge inward, floors ripple like water, and the corridors stretch or contract in unsettling ways. The sour, metallic smell is overwhelming now, filling your lungs with every breath, making you gag. The scraping sound is right behind you, a wet, tearing noise against the yielding floor. Your psychological state is on the verge of collapse. Reality is a fragile concept, easily shattered. You are no longer sure if you are awake, dreaming, or somewhere far beyond either. The paranoia is absolute. Every shadow is a watcher, every sound a threat. The paranormal manifestations press closer. The tall, thin figures emerge from the twisting architecture, moving with a fluid, predatory grace. They do not speak with whispers, but with a dry, clicking sound that echoes the tapping on the glass. They are silent witnesses to your descent. The mirrors are everywhere now. Puddles, polished wall sections. The very air seems to shimmer with reflections. Each surface shows a different horror. Hallways filled with the clicking figures. A room where a version of you sits weeping, bound in chains of light, or simply the infinite gray space stretching into nothingness. The black glass mirror remains, the figure still smiling, still tapping. It is the central supernatural event, the direct invitation. You feel a powerful, morbid urge to touch it, to see if the glass is cold or warm, solid or yielding. Is it a boundary or a doorway waiting to be opened? The space feels alive, vibrating with malicious intent, and you know, with chilling certainty, that it wants you to step through the reflection. The boundary feels thin, almost non-existent now. You do not step through, or perhaps you do. The moments blur, leaving only the residue of cold glass and the echo of a smile. The intense focus on the mirror breaks, leaving you trembling in the strange, shifting space. The architecture seems to settle slightly, the violent contortion slowing to a subtle, unsettling pulse. The smells fade, leaving only the faint, persistent ozone and dust. The sounds recede, the scraping and clicking replaced by the omnipresent, low hum. You are left standing alone again. Though the feeling of being watched never entirely dissipates, your psychological state is fragile. The conviction of reality is broken, replaced by a profound uncertainty. You carry the weight of the things seen in the mirrors, the whispers heard, the smile reflected back at you. The déjà vu lingers, no longer a jolt, but a quiet ache, a knowledge that this place is somehow embedded in your history, real or imagined. The mirror motif is gone, or simply hidden. There are no immediate reflections now, only the yielding gray walls, stretching into the distance. Yet, the absence feels significant, like the hiding of a predator after a failed hunt. The question remains, hanging in the cold air, was it all in your head, a descent into madness, or did you truly walk these impossible paths, glimpsing horrors that exist beyond the veil of your understanding? The space is quiet now, waiting. The hum is low, but it's still there. And if you hear it again tonight, don't answer. Not yet. Welcome to the Eerie Hour. Some places don't just haunt you, they wait. If you enjoy descending into the strange and the forgotten, don't forget to like and subscribe, and share your theories below. Now, let's begin. But remember, once the story starts, something always follows. The air here smells of dust and forgotten things, thick with the years pressing down. It's an old place, this house, built when shadows held more weight. You stepped inside, drawn by a curiosity you couldn't name, a pull that felt less like a choice and more like a tide. The front door closed behind you with a sigh, not a bang, and the silence that followed wasn't empty but full of waiting. It's as if the very silence holds its breath. You walk through rooms where furniture is draped in white sheets, looking like ghosts caught mid-movement. A fine layer of dust coats everything, disturbed only by your hesitant footsteps. In the grand hallway, A tall, ornate mirror stands against the wall. Its glass is clouded with age, reflecting your shape dimly, like an old photograph fading at the edges. You pause before it, a strange feeling settling in your gut. It's just a mirror, old and neglected, yet it feels different. It feels aware. As you stare into its clouded depths, you can swear your reflection takes a fraction of a second longer to move than you do. A small, almost imperceptible delay that prickles the back of your neck. You shake your head. Tiredness, that's all it is. The long drive, the anticipation. But the feeling lingers. The house feels older than its physical age suggests, steeped in something unseen. You move on, but glance back at the mirror. For a fleeting moment, the reflection in the glass seems sharper, less clouded, watching you go. A shiver traces your spine, not from cold, but from a dawning, unwelcome thought. Perhaps the house isn't just old. Perhaps it remembers. The subtle wrongness persists, growing bolder now. It's not just a feeling anymore. It's something you can almost grasp, like trying to catch smoke. The dust on surfaces shifts when no breeze stirs. Objects you distinctly remember leaving in one place are found moments later inches away, or sometimes across the room entirely. It's like a child's game played by an unseen hand, gentle but persistent. The whispers you thought were just the wind outside or the creak of old timbers are clearer now, a low, resonant hum that seems to emanate from the very walls themselves. They are unintelligible, a murmur of many voices, too quiet to make out words, but undeniably there, a constant undercurrent beneath the silence. You find yourself drawn back to the mirrors, the large one in the hall, and smaller ones in dusty bedrooms. They don't just show your reflection anymore. They seem to absorb the light, leaving the room around them feeling darker. Staring into them, your own face seems distant, estranged. One evening, passing the hall mirror, you see a fleeting movement behind your reflection, a shadow detaching itself from the wall. You spin around, but nothing is there, just empty hall, draped furniture. Yet, your heart hammers against your ribs. Doubt gnaws at you. Is this house getting to you? Is solitude breeding delusion? You question your own mind, your senses, wondering if fatigue has finally cracked your perception of reality. What if what you see isn't really what is there? The humming grows slightly louder, a vibrational presence felt deep in your bones, a chilling atmospheric detail that anchors the uncanny events in your physical reality. It is a terrible sound because it shouldn't exist. The whispers are no longer just a hum. They are voices now, fragmented and overlapping, echoing from the walls themselves, seeming to come from within the plaster and wood. They are too numerous to decipher, a chorus of sorrow and fear and anger, a tangible emotional residue clinging to the air in certain rooms. The air feels thick, heavy with an unseen presence, and distinct chilling drafts sweep through impossible corridors that weren't there moments before, or through solid walls. You see faded writing appear on the wallpaper, not graffiti, but words pressed into the fibers, words that weren't visible yesterday. Lost, forgotten. Why? Scattered objects appear, a child's worn shoe, a single rusted key, a photograph of people you've never seen, their faces blurred, looking out from an era you don't recognize. These remnants feel significant, loaded with unspoken history, yet they make no logical sense in the context of the empty house. You return compulsively to the large hall mirror. The writing on the walls is faintly visible in its surface, reflected words you hadn't noticed before appearing in the glass. The photograph you found seems clearer when viewed in the mirror's reflection, almost as if the glass is clarifying the past. The whispers seem loudest near the mirror, sometimes coalescing into clearer fragments, names whispered, perhaps yours, perhaps another's. An obsession takes root, overriding any desire to leave. You must understand this place, its history, its wrongness. It feels strangely connected to you, as if it's dredging up buried anxieties and guilt you didn't know you had. A sudden, vivid hallucination washes over you, a moment of standing in this hall, but decades ago, seeing the people from the photograph move and speak. Then, it snaps back, leaving you trembling, unsure if it was memory, vision, or something else entirely. Is the space influencing your mind, or is it merging with it? The veil between the seen and unseen thins to a terrifying transparency. The manifestations are no longer fleeting or ambiguous. Doors slam shut, locking themselves or disappearing entirely, actively shifting the environment to block your path. The chilling drafts become gusts, cold hands that brush against your skin with a brief, icy pressure. A porcelain doll, previously seated on a dusty shelf, is found standing directly in your path. Its painted eyes wide, a symbol you never intended to be so potent, now mocking your attempts to navigate. The whispers intensify further, no longer just fragmented narratives, but sometimes clear directives, cold commands, or insidious lies designed to confuse and terrify. The mirrors are active participants now. Passing the hall mirror, a hand, gray and skeletal, reaches out from the glass, not touching you, but hovering inches away before retracting with unnatural speed. In another room, a collection of small, decorative mirrors on the wall shimmer, and for a heart-stopping moment, you see your own reflection standing still while you move, its expression one of pure, chilling malice. The mirrors seem to multiply, appearing on walls where there were none before, each one showing a slightly different angle, a slightly distorted version of the room, creating a disorienting labyrinth of reflections. You struggle to distinguish your true path from the myriad false ones presented in the glass. The sense of self dissolves. Are you still you? Or has the space, with its history and its whispers, become you? You feel detached, observing your own actions as if they belong to someone else, someone losing their grip on what is real and what is not. The impossible is no longer just possible. It is your reality, cold and sharp, like a shard of glass. The intensity recedes, not in a burst of light or a clear resolution, but like a tide pulling back, leaving behind a shore littered with strange debris. The slamming doors cease. The objects still rest where they fell. The writing on the walls remains, faded but present, a testament to the terrifying clarity of moments past. The air no longer feels thick. It feels merely still, heavy with the silence that followed. You stand in the hall, facing the large mirror. It is clouded again, its surface dull, reflecting nothing clearly. Yet, you cannot shake the feeling that something resides within its depths, something that simply chose to withdraw. The whispers are gone, replaced by the vast, empty quiet of the house. But the psychological residue remains, a chilling film over your thoughts. Reality feels thin. You doubt your memories, question the sequence of events. Did it all truly happen, or was it a descent into madness, triggered by the isolation and the house's oppressive atmosphere? The recurring motif of mirrors feels less like a symbol now and more like a warning. You avoid looking into reflective surfaces, catching only fleeting glimpses of your own face, a face that looks drawn, changed, older. The questions linger, unanswered and perhaps unanswerable. What was in the walls? What did the whispers want? And did it leave or did it merge? You leave the house eventually, the door sighing shut behind you once more. The world outside seems too bright, too loud, too normal. But you carry something with you. A quiet echo in your mind. A persistent feeling of being watched. And the certainty that some places don't just wait, they follow you home. And if you hear it again tonight, don't answer. Not yet. The air thickens, not with mist, but with an impossible pressure that warps the light. Subtle shifts are gone. The space screams now, not with sound, but with a raw, sensory violence that assaults the mind directly. The floor buckles beneath your feet, refusing purchase. Walls pulse with colors that do not exist, shades of impossible anguish and searing non-light. You stumble, trying to find level ground, but up and down are forgotten concepts here. The very geometry of reality twists, folding in on itself like a shattered drawing. A doorway shimmers ahead, a cruel trick of the light, a familiar rectangular promise in the chaos. You lunge towards it, hope a sudden, desperate surge. It dissolves as your hand reaches it, replaced by a solid expanse that laughs silently, the surface rippling like disturbed water, showing nothing. Panic surges, a cold flood through your veins. Every attempt to impose order, to navigate, to find a path, is met with immediate, malicious correction. The corridor you just traversed stretches into an infinite, featureless void behind you. The room you stood in moments ago is now a dizzying spiral above. You are not lost. You are actively being herded, spun unmade. A sudden, high-pitched whine drills into your skull. Not a sound, but a feeling. A psychic intrusion that scrambles thought. It's the space speaking, declaring your efforts futile, mocking your desperate need for logic, for escape. This is no longer a haunted place. It is the horror itself, consuming everything within it, including you. You catch your reflection in a polished brass fitting embedded in the floor. Or what used to be the floor. It isn't just your face looking back. It's distorted, stretched, but behind your eyes, deep within the reflection, is another shape, something formless and vast, staring through you, wearing your image like a thin veil. The eyes in the reflection are wrong, hungry. They don't belong to you. A profound, sickening sense of displacement washes over you. Who are you really, if your reflection is a mask for something else? The idea that you are becoming part of this place, dissolving into its impossible colors and psychic screams, takes root, a cold certainty that paralyzes the frantic terror. Your body feels heavy, distant. The world outside your own dissolving consciousness seems less real than the oppressive force surrounding you. The thought, "I am not here, I am becoming it," lodges itself firmly. The high-pitched whine intensifies, becoming a single, unbearable note that vibrates through bone and marrow, dismantling perception. Your limbs lock. Your eyes fix on a point that isn't there, seeing only the internal collapse, the self fracturing like thin glass. The concept of you unravels, threads snapping one by one. You are consciousness trapped in stillness, watching as the boundaries dissolve entirely. Is this what it means to cease? Welcome to the eerie hour. Some places don't just haunt you, they wait. If you enjoy descending into the strange and the forgotten, don't forget to like and subscribe, and share your theories below. Now let's begin, but remember, once the story starts, something always follows. The air in the old house settles around you, thick and tasting of disuse. It's a familiar taste, though you cannot place the memory. Dust motes dance in the weak shafts of light filtering through grimy windows, performing a slow, silent ballet you feel you should understand. She stands in the hallway, head tilted, listening. There is no sound, not really, but the silence here is different. It feels stretched thin, like taut skin, ready to tear and reveal something unpleasant underneath. Every floorboard creak behind you is too loud, too deliberate. You walk deeper inside, drawn by a sense of purpose that feels implanted, not self-derived. Why are you here? The question is a pebble dropped into a deep well, and no splash returns. There are too many corners in this house, too many angles that don't quite make sense, walls that seem to lean inward just slightly. A faint, almost imperceptible hiss tickles the edge of hearing. It's like static from an untuned radio, but it emanates from the air itself, a subtle interference with reality. It makes the hairs on your arms prickle. Is the sound coming from the walls? From inside your own head? You stop in front of a faded wallpaper pattern. Faded flowers, the color of bruises. You trace a wilting bloom with your finger. It feels strangely warm. A shiver runs down your spine, not from cold, but from a growing, unshakable certainty that you are not alone. The house watches, and the static whispers secrets just beyond your comprehension. You feel a strange, sickening pull, a sense of being recognized by something ancient and unkind within these walls. The static is louder now, a low hum beneath the silence, like the house itself is vibrating on a frequency you weren't meant to perceive. You trace the source, moving through rooms that seem to twist and shift subtly when you aren't looking directly at them. A faint, cloying scent hangs in the air here, like decaying flowers mingled with something metallic, like old blood or rust. It catches in your throat, heavy and sickening. She finds herself in a small, forgotten room at the back of the house, a room she doesn't remember seeing before, though the architecture should make it impossible for it to be hidden. There are no windows here, and the single bare bulb overhead casts long, nervous shadows that leap and shrink as if startled by your presence. In one corner, where the floorboards meet the wall at an unnatural angle, the static is strongest. It feels like pressure against your eardrums, a buzzing inside your teeth. You stare at the wall. There should be nothing here but plaster and laugh, but the air shimmers, distorting the dust motes like heat haze off pavement. Is it just a trick of the light? Your eyes sting, and doubt creeps in, cold and sharp. You rub your temples, trying to clear the growing confusion in your mind. There is no door here. There can't be. Yet the feeling persists, the certainty that something is here, just out of sight, hidden behind the noise. The static intensifies, resolving momentarily into a faint, disembodied whisper that seems to call your name, or perhaps a name that sounds like yours, from behind the wall. You lean closer, compelled by a force that feels both external and deeply internal. The whisper is gone, lost again in the relentless hiss of the static. But you heard it, and you know, with a dreadful certainty that chills you to the bone, that it heard you too. You touch the wall where the static hums highest, and your fingers pass through it. There is no physical resistance, just a sudden, cold void. The wall isn't solid. It's an illusion, a curtain drawn over an opening you cannot see but can feel. The air on the other side is different, thin and sharp, tasting of ozone and something else you can't name, something fundamentally wrong. She steps through or falls through. The transition is abrupt, like stepping off a cliff into darkness. You are no longer in the dusty house. You are somewhere else entirely. The static is deafening here, a constant roar that vibrates through your entire body, making your bones ache. The space is vast and empty, yet somehow suffocatingly full. The light source is impossible to locate. It simply exists, a gray, washed-out luminescence that casts no discernible shadows. Geometric shapes shift and pulse at the edge of your vision, like patterns seen behind closed eyelids after staring at a bright light. These are places you can name. They are concepts made manifest. The ground beneath you isn't solid earth, but feels like packed ash that gims slightly under your weight, yet offers no purchase. Panic swells in your chest, a hot, suffocating wave, crushing the logical part of your mind. You stumble backward, reaching for the opening you came through, but there is nothing there, only the shifting, impossible landscape. The static seems to shape itself into distorted sounds, not words, but inflections, tones of something observing. Is this place empty, or are you just failing to see them? A profound sense of isolation washes over you, coupled with the horrifying realization that you might be utterly, irrevocably lost. Deeper you go, not by walking, but by the space itself seeming to fold around you, pulling you inward. The static now warps and twists, sometimes sounding like distant screams, sometimes like distorted laughter, sometimes like a child's music box played backward. It is the language of this place. The atmosphere is a perpetual twilight, the gray light neither waxing nor waning. Architectural fragments float in the distance, pieces of buildings, broken arches, staircases leading to nowhere, all rendered in the same non-color, like ghosts of solid things. A recurring pattern emerges in the visual static at the periphery of your vision, impossible shapes that resemble tangled limbs or stylized keys. They flicker and writhe, never resolving into something recognizable, but they feel significant, like glyphs in a language you're starting to learn against your will. She feels the structure of her thoughts begin to fray, memories dissolving like mist in sunlight. Who were you before this? Where did you come from? The past is becoming as unreal as the present. A profound sense of dissociation settles in. Your body feels distant, a vessel you inhabit rather than truly are. The air here is cold, yet no breath condenses. You reach out to touch a floating fragment of stone, and your hand passes through it as if it were smoke. Was this place always here, waiting? Or did you somehow conjure it into being? The static pulses, louder, faster, as if in response to your thought, confirming a connection you desperately wish didn't exist. You are not merely in this place. You feel yourself becoming part of it, dissolving into the ambient noise and impossible light. The landscape is now actively hostile, not through physical danger, but through sheer, overwhelming wrongness. The ground buckles, the floating fragments rush past with impossible speed, and the static sharpens into distinct, repeated syllables that hammer against your mind, though they make no sense. The recurring symbol of tangled limbs or keys is everywhere now, etched into the non-existent surface beneath your feet, woven into the visual static, manifesting briefly in the air before dissolving. It feels like a signature, a mark of ownership. She sees figures in the distance, indistinct shapes that move with a jerky, unnatural gait. They are not human. They drift closer, or the space pulls you closer to them. You cannot tell. A chilling wave of pure terror washes over you, primal and absolute, paralyzing you despite the desperate need to flee. You try to scream, but no sound escapes your lips, swallowed by the roar of the static. One of the figures stops, its form resolving slightly into something resembling a collection of angles and voids, and it seems to turn its featureless face towards you. The static originating from it is different, sharper, laced with a high-pitched whine. Did you choose to enter, or were you always here? You close your eyes, willing yourself back to the dust, the corners, the silence that felt like stretched skin. Anything but this. The pressure in your head becomes unbearable, the symbols flashing behind your eyelids, the static, a physical force pushing you down, into the ash-like ground. You feel yourself fading, becoming another echo in the impossible space, another shape in the perpetual twilight. You are back. The return is abrupt, violent, like being flung from a great height. You lie on a floor that is undeniably solid, smelling of old dust and faded perfume, not ozone and ash. The house, the original place, but it feels alien, muted, wrong. The colors seem less vibrant, the sounds less clear, as if a veil has been drawn over the world. You push yourself up, your limbs aching, your mind a fractured mess of impossible geometries and whispering static. You feel physically and mentally shattered. You crawl to the corner, the one where the air shimmered, where the wall wasn't solid. You stare at it, tracing the faded flower pattern. It is just a wall, solid, unyielding. There is no opening, no shimmer, no scent of ozone. Was it ever there? The complete absence is somehow worse than finding it still open. The horror wasn't confined to that space. It imprinted itself upon you. The light of the real sky visible through the grimy window seems too harsh, too blue, or feels distant and unreal, like a painted backdrop. You are haunted by the echoes of the whispers, the impossible sights burned onto the backs of your eyelids, the persistent feeling of being watched by something that returned with you. Sleep is impossible, each attempt dissolving into nightmarish replays of the space, the figures, the symbols of tangled keys. Your memories are fragmented, unreliable. You can't distinguish what was real before from what happened in the other place. You might be physically present, but your mind is still lost somewhere in that twisted reflection. The outside world feels like a fragile illusion compared to the undeniable truth of the space beyond the hidden exit you can no longer find. You find yourself drawn back to that corner, searching, listening, feeling for a seam that isn't there, because even though you are out, you know, with a chilling certainty, that you never truly left. And perhaps the space hasn't finished with you yet. Or perhaps the true horror is realizing the space was never separate from you at all, merely waiting for you to find the door within yourself. The subtle static is still there, not in the air, but inside your skull, a constant reminder. And if you hear it again tonight, don't answer. Not yet.